Who can take a flower, roll it up and make it fine, sprinkle it with knowledge and a little bit of time, cover it with headlines and a sweet euphoria too. Cannabis man, can. Who can take a story and make it feel so grand, spread the word around about the wonders of this land, mix it all with laughter and a sprinkle of insight. Cannabis man flies. Ooh, Cannabis man, spreading news and joy across the land, diving deep into the growing green. Cannabis man, we're all king. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Hello there, and welcome in to another episode of the Cannabis Man podcast. Thank you so much for clicking on this show. I am your host, Don Kleppen, and this is a podcast which is among the top 10% in the world according to Listen Notes, and on the Good Pods charts, it is the number 1 indie information podcast out there, and number 3 relating to cannabis. It's being heard in 85 countries around this globe and every single continent. From here in the U.S., all 50 states, to Germany, the Netherlands, across Europe, Asia, from down around Australia and New Zealand up to Scandinavia. This is a show where we're trying to take a journalistic look at all things legal cannabis. I like to share with you news stories about cannabis as well as perspective on what those likely mean. As a journalist in Chicago doing news and traffic on the radio for a while and a personal cannabis user of almost 20 years, I bring an interesting perspective of this from somebody who's been using long before it was legal and now kind of taking a journalistic approach to watching this and chronicling it as it becomes legal and more normalized in real time. And I also love speaking with experts in the field. If these are entrepreneurs who have started a business, they're making products for you and I and other connoisseurs to enjoy. Also doctors, scientists who are doing research and finding some very exciting things. There's a few of those stories, a recent study that I'm very excited to tell you about on this episode, some exciting implications there. And I also talk with politicians, policy leaders, appointed or elected people who are responsible for making the laws that are going to become the future of legal cannabis, and occasionally other journalists or podcasters like myself in the space just kind of talking about this and covering all the changes and bringing them to you right here on the Cannabis Man podcast. If you haven't already, leave a rating or review for the show, however you're listening to this right now. If it's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you are, there's a function to subscribe to the show, like it, rate, or review it, and if you can do that for me, I would really appreciate it. It kind of helps me stand out from all the other excellent podcasts out there and lets people know what's worth their time. So if you find any value in what I'm doing here, a rating or review goes a long way to showing some appreciation. You can also follow the show at C-Man Podcast on X and Instagram, and it's the Cannabis Man Podcast Facebook page and YouTube channel. And you can always support the show by scrolling down and becoming a patron by clicking the support the show link in the description notes and subscribe through there. You'll get some exclusive content. I'm working on some bonus episodes, some conversations that I'm going to put there for only patrons to check out. So if you're interested in more of what I'm doing here, definitely become a subscriber. You'll be first in line to get those. And at any point during the show, if you've got an opinion that you want to share, if you try the edibles that I'm going to talk about that I'm judging, if you have tried any of the products, or if you have an opinion on what I talk about with the guest or any of the news stories that I bring to you, just scroll down and hit that text Cannabis Man link in the description notes. You can send a message and it'll get right to me. I love hearing from you wherever you are in the world, whatever your opinion is, whether you agree or disagree with me, or you just have a thought, maybe a suggestion for a product to try, or maybe a hint of where some good cannabis products are offered. Different state markets have different stuff available. Let me know. Send me a text. Really appreciate that. This week, I am speaking with someone from a company who is making some very exciting and delectable edibles. These options that have been coming out the last few years of infused cannabis treats really are mind-blowing, and there is a company, SweetBuzz, which is really taking those achievements to new heights. The company was started not by cannabis people, but by candy people. These people have been working in the, making delicious confections space for a long time, and now they're doing so with infused treats, and some of the offerings that they have on tap are really something exciting, especially if you have a sweet tooth like I do, so you're definitely going to want to stick around and hear what they have to say. I'll also tell you about some opportunities where you can try out some of their stuff at some events coming up later on. We also just made it through a bit of a heat wave here in Chicago. Last week, the episode where I shared with you some updates after the DNC was in town, and there were a lot of people. They said 50,000 plus visitors in town, delegates, journalists, anybody who was drawn here for that convention. Well, just after that left town, there was a heat wave that kind of moved in, and while they were here, it was very fall weather-ish in Chicago, mid-60s in August, which is not something that's typical here. But then summer came back with a bit of a vengeance. It was humid, it was really hot, dangerous heat indices this week. On Tuesday, we broke our record, I believe, of 97 standing temp at O'Hare. It was 98, at least at one point, and then the heat indices were between 100 and 110 around Illinois. So some very, very difficult conditions for a lot of people, but those have just passed, and now we're back into this sort of fall-ish weather. I was just taking a walk this morning with my daughter Violet, pushing the stroller around, and it felt like it was in the mid-60s, not so humid, gray skies. Very much put me in mind of autumn, which is just around the corner. As I sit here recording this on August 29th, we are just a few weeks away from the autumnal equinox, and I'm very, very, very much looking forward to fall every year. Got football on the TV, that chill in the air, the smell of the leaves as they, fall off the trees, and the crunch underfoot as you're kind of walking around, and the colors and all of that. There's just a lot to really love about fall, whether you're a pumpkin spice person or an apple cider person, whatever. It's soup season as well. I know a lot of my friends are very excited about that. I am as well. My wife Gretchen makes delicious foods all the time using the crock pot, whether soups or stews. She just made a really gourmet style breakfast sandwich with brioche buns and spinach and tomatoes in the eggs and garlic onions, and just, I'm spoiled. It's just rotten here with the level of food that I get to consume on a day-to-day basis. But there's going to be a lot more on the menu with fall, and I just can't wait for it. And I also can't wait to pair some cannabis items with the change in the season. One of my absolute favorite things to do is, go out for a walk on a nice crisp fall day, like, again, mid-60s, even upper 50s or whatever, have a sweater on, a hoodie, and some pants, and go out with a nice pre-roll and just kind of stroll the block and kind of, go through just different thoughts. Sometimes a walk is really just what the doctor ordered. So if it's been a while, maybe you're listening to this and you're kind of in the middle of a work shift, or you've been inside for a little bit, do yourself a favor. If it's nice by you, take a few minutes and just walk outside, get your feet in the grass, get the wind on your skin, something to take you out of your current status. Just a change like that from the inside air to the outdoor fresh air, letting a little bit of nature get at you. I have found that it may sound overly simplistic, but in my opinion, it is just kind of a quick and easy solution to a lot of life's ills that we all kind of have to deal with from time to time. Certainly a lot easier to approach a problem after a 20, 30-minute walk outside, breathing some fresh air and kind of coming back at it with a fresh perspective. I haven't really been pairing any cannabis in the morning with my my coffee. Anyone who's listened to the show for a while knows that I love pairing cannabis and coffee, and I haven't really been able to do that so much lately. I've just been doing things in the morning, waking up a little earlier since Violet's been around, and trying to get some stuff done before I leave for work in the midday around 10:30, 10:45. And so just the last few weeks and months, like, it really hasn't lent itself to me kind of waking and baking, which is something I've always enjoyed, and pairing cannabis with a little caffeine of a good cup of coffee with a sativa joint, or even some kind of a dry vape extraction, the thermal extraction that the Dynavap pieces that I love will do. That is definitely a preferred way for me to start the day, but I haven't been doing that so much lately. I've been more into edibles of late. I'm in the midst of that Best in Grass judging competition. This is going on until mid-October. October 13th is the end of the judging period, and then the winners will be announced later in October. I'm going to tell you about a product that I tried, and we'll judge it right here in that portal on the show to give you an idea of kind of what the judging experience is like. But I'll give you a little more in-depth kind of review of my thoughts of these gummies. So without further ado, let's get into this episode of the Cannabis Man Podcast.
We'll be right back.
Hey there, listener. How does this sound to you? An evening of laughs, meeting new people, wonderful cannabis, and delicious food, all enjoying some live performances on stage. How does that sound to you? Because if it sounds good like it does to me, you need to check out my friends at Can-O Comedy. This is a cannabis-infused dinner and comedy club which puts on performances across various Chicago venues and in the surrounding suburbs. Picture this. You head to a new venue, doors open, and food infused with lovely cannabis is served at 5:30. Music is playing, you mingle with new people, and you're just coasting until those delicious infusions hit your system. You are able to bring your own cannabis, and depending on the venue, you can smoke it, you can eat it, you can drink it, however you like consuming it, bring your own, and you can enjoy it there. 8 p.m., comedians hit the stage, and depending on how many there are, shows end between 9:30 and 10. Stoner Nat says she was inspired to create Can-O Comedy by the great comic Lenny Bruce, who was not afraid to veer into politics and serious topics, but knew just how to take the sting out of them with a laugh. Cannabis, food, music, and comedy, these are things which can bring people together and maybe share their stories, bringing joy, comfort, and the healing medicine of laughter to a world that can certainly use it. Find out more and get tickets to the next event at canocomedy.com/events.
This is Tommy Chong, and you're listening to the Cannabis broadcast.
Alrighty, and let's get into the News Joint Wrap. Right off the bat, this is a wrap-up of news stories and events relating to cannabis in and around Illinois, and it's all curated for you by IllinoisNewsJoint.com. It's the joint you can hit for all your Illinois cannabis news and reviews. Now, this week's News Joint Wrap is mostly dealing with events. There are a few events coming up that I wanted to share with you. Most immediately in the near future here is the Illinois Craft Showcase. This is next weekend, September 7th, Saturday, running at Molly's Joint in Tilton from noon to 7 p.m., and you can reserve free tickets at IllinoisNewsJoint.com. There are going to be so many craft licensees showcasing their products, including my guest this week, SweetBuzz. They'll be there, and when you hear the interview that I have with them and you hear their products, I promise you, you are going to, if you haven't already gotten your tickets, I think you'll be thinking twice about that decision, because being able to go for free to this event, and it's an open consumption event. You can meet people from all kinds of different cannabis companies in the state, and you can try their products, whether flower, edibles, concentrates, beverages, whatever you're into. There are going to be stands there and representatives giving out some of these, samples of some of these products. And I think for my money, even just going to be able to try some SweetBuzz products is certainly worth the price of the trip down to Tilton for the Illinois Craft Showcase. So that's coming up next weekend on the 7th. Be sure to reserve your tickets whenever you can, but that seems like it's going to be a great time. Another fun event coming up later in September is the Hemp, Hops, and Shrooms Festival, which is set now for September 28th. The city of Carbondale and Main Street recently announced details. This is the third annual Hemp, Hops, and Shrooms Festival. It's a family-friendly event, so hey, bring the kids. It's Downtown Entertainment Events Plaza in Carbondale. It'll run 3 to 10 p.m. on Saturday, the 28th of September. It's scheduled to host presentations and demos from 3 to 7, which will include cooking with mushrooms, a segment brought to you by Flyway Family Farm. Susie Leidy from Southern Illinois University's Fermentation Science Institute will deliver an interactive presentation on terpenes, the aromatic compounds found in plants, and how those terps shape the beer drinker's experience. Very interesting. And again, as the name implies, hemp, hops, and shrooms, there's a lot of overlap, and I've talked about this with a few guests. There's a lot of overlap between the hops plant and the cannabis plant, or hemp plants as well. They're very similar genetically, even to the point where there are some viruses and some things to be aware of that go from hops to cannabis plants. And if you haven't heard my recent conversation with Taylor Robinson of Rimrock Analytical, who looks into data exactly like that, he gives some really cool details kind of about what they're seeing in terms of some trending viroids and maybe things to be concerned about if you've got a home grow or anything else, if you're thinking about that. It's a good conversation, and I recommend you check that out. But Dr. Jose LeMay and Dr. Gage from SIU's Cannabis Science Center will also be demonstrating, showcasing how to grow cannabis indoors and how to work with hemp fibers. I spoke with Dr. LeMay earlier in the show. It was probably a year or two ago at this point, but he's got a fascinating story. He's had a great journey throughout his life, and this guy knows what he's doing when it comes to growing cannabis. So if you're at all interested in learning about that, or maybe what the program is like down at SIU and their science center, this event, the Hemp, Hops, and Shrooms Festival on September 28th, is for you. And there's more details about that in this article, which I've linked below from IllinoisNewsJoint.com. There's also a hemp cannabis symposium set for the 27th, the day before that festival. This is also sponsored by the Southern Illinois University Cannabis Science Center. So this would be the Friday, 8 a.m. is when this starts at the McLafferty Annex. This symposium is going to showcase the latest trends, research, and opportunities in the hemp and cannabis sectors, offering valuable networking and exposure to a diverse audience of professionals and enthusiasts alike. Stay tuned to IllinoisNewsJoint.com or the Cannabis Man podcast, and I'll get you details about the exhibitor and attendee registration information, as well as a schedule of more presenters, which will be announced in the coming weeks. You can also find great reviews, including recent ones of Durban Poison Vape Carts by High Five, Hop Cured Sweet Tea Flower by Nature's Grace and Wellness, and Mint Chill Cups by SweetBuzz. All that and more for you is always waiting at IllinoisNewsJoint.com. Now, if you've been listening to the show, you know that I am in the midst of the Best in Grass Illinois competition. I am judging the Gummies Edibles kit, and it's been very enjoyable for me to go through the different gummies, the best offered in the state of Illinois. I talked last week about the first gummies in my foray into this kit, which were the Days Off Taste Bud Strawberry Lemon Fades. Check out that review if those sound good to you last week. This week, I'm going to be talking to you about the Essence Nectar Gummies. OG Strawberry is the flavor that was included in this kit. They advertise it as made with cured resin, which I was very intrigued by. When I take these gummies, and I've been doing this judging, I've written down during my experience as well as afterward, I write down some notes about my thoughts about these things. And for the Essence OG Strawberry gummies here that I wrote down, Let me first tell you a little about the nutrition facts here. 14 calories, 0 from fat, saturated or trans. There's nothing there. No sodium, cholesterol. There are some carbs and sugars, and actually a little over 2 grams of protein, which I think is pretty impressive for a cannabis gummy. I'm into that. Ingredients include sugar, water, pectin, which I talked a little about last week with those days off taste buds. I did not realize how many more gummies are being made with pectin, but as I've gone through this Best in Grass judging kit, I've seen a lot more being made with pectin over gelatin, and I am all for this move. These pectin gummies, I think texture-wise, are so much better than any gelatin gummies. So that's consistent with these Essence OG strawberry ones as well. Other ingredients include sodium bicarbonate, cured cannabis extract, medium-chain triglycerides, natural flavor, myrcene, limonene, osamine, sodium citrate, sunflower oil, and it says it does contain tree nuts, which it specifies as coconut. So my thoughts about these, pectin-based, which I said, very nice texture. I find that, some of the gelatin gummies, and I know that you'll know this if you've ever had any other gelatin products, gelatin can sometimes be a little too chewy or a little tough, and that's the case with some gummies too. But with pectin, they're so soft and easily chewable, very pleasant to bite into, and that was the case with these Essence OG strawberry gummies as well. This gummy did have sugar granules on it, so it makes the bite a little bit crunchy. There's a little bit of some grit when you're chewing in these, but it's not unpleasant. It's a sweet grit, but very soft and chewy even so. I wrote down that I thought the flavor is pleasant. Again, they say OG strawberry, but the color of these gummies is yellow, which, I find muddled my sensations a little bit. Obviously, with gummies especially, you can make any flavor, any color that you want it to be. You can have a yellow Skittle, and they could make that taste like raspberry if they wanted to. There's no rule, there's no hard and fast rule that says if it's strawberry flavored, it must be red. But even so, for my, experience, it did kind of throw me off a little bit when you're expecting a strawberry gummy and you kind of lift it out of the package and you see that it's yellow. It just puts other flavors in mind, which whatever's on your mind, that informs your palate as to what to expect, just like the odor does. And I find that when you crack open the package of these, the smell is pleasant, and it does have a strawberry flavor. That's the flavor, but, I did notice that the aftertaste, it lingers a bit too long, and I was personally not a fan of it. The vibe that I got, though, spacey headspace. I took these before dinner one night and then was writing these notes afterward, so I felt that my head vibe was a little spacey. It eased some stomach discomfort, which I had through the day. That was very nice. I don't know if it was, maybe just too much coffee. When you have stimulants like that, it can affect your stomach. I also didn't really eat too much that day, so hunger could have been a factor. Whatever it was, I had some stomach discomfort, not quite nausea, but just some unpleasantness, and these Essence OG strawberry gummies helped soothe that just fine, which was nice. I gave these ultimately just an okay rating. I would give them a 6 or 7 out of 10 stars. I found my sensations were a little muddled, and if you are interested in reading more detailed information about this, you can head to bestingrass.io, and I will write down all of these thoughts that I just shared with you, as well as actually rate it and submit that as well. One note here before I get into this week's interview with my guest, Alisa Brill from SweetBuzz. I wanted to let you know that she does have 2 small dogs, one of whom was a little bit vocal during our interview, and I tried to clean it up through the editing process, but you're definitely going to hear some barks and whatnot, so just be prepared for that. If you have any dogs nearby that might get freaked out by another dog barking during the interview, just wanted to give you that heads up before rolling on into this. And now, enjoy the conversation.
We'll be right back.
You know, it really is amazing living in a state where cannabis has been legalized, or a country. It's just really cool still to me to be able to go to a dispensary and buy different products. But what's even more amazing than that is growing your own cannabis at home. And if you're able to do that where you are, but maybe the prospect is a little intimidating. Maybe you've never grown anything by yourself before at home. Maybe you don't have the equipment. Maybe you don't even know where to start. Well, if the idea is appealing to you and you've thought about starting a home grow, allow me to recommend my friends at Bloom's Brothers Hydro. These guys are the best. They know exactly how to get you started or how to improve your grow operation. Wherever you are in your journey, they can help you, and they have the products you need to get this done. They've got lines in stock from Horticulture Lighting Group, Nectar for the Gods, Green Grow, Fox Farm, Royal Gold Soils, and more. And hey, maybe growing cannabis is old hat for you at this point. Maybe you've been doing it for a while, you know all you need to know about it, but maybe you've been looking to expand your garden and add a fungal element to it. You know, cannabis flower is great, but it doesn't go great on a pizza, unlike mushrooms. Those are delicious on a pizza. And if you've been interested in researching this prospect, adding some of that fungus to your own home grow, Bloom's Brothers Hydro has you covered there too. They've got supplies from Uncle Mike's, Southwest Shroomery, Redwood Mushroom Supply, and Dr. Mike's as well. You can find Bloom's Brothers Hydro inside the Apple House on Harding Avenue in Terre Haute, Indiana. They're open 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 11 a.m. to 5 on Sundays. For more information, follow them on Instagram at Apple House Hydro. You can email Fred at theapplehouse.com or call 812-232-1495 to get all the information that you're looking for. Remember, if you're thinking about starting or expanding a home grow, check out the guys at Bloom's Brothers Hydro. Listener, my guest today has a fascinating story to tell. She is part of a company that is making some very sweet cannabis edibles, and I cannot wait to give them a try myself. And they are branded as SweetBuzz, born from a deep friendship and shared sweet tooth. And they are just in Illinois back earlier this year in April, I believe, and they are going to be showcasing some of their excellent products at the Illinois Craft Growers Showcase, which is coming up. I talk about that on the Illinois News Joint Wrap all the time. And I'm really looking forward to finding out some more about where you can get some of these products and their philosophies and whatnot. And here to talk about that is Alisa Brill, Chief Financial Officer and Chief Operating Officer of SweetBuzz. Welcome, Alisa.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks for taking some time today. So, did I have that right? Did you guys just start in Illinois earlier this year?
Yes, we launched right around 4/20. Our first shipment was on 4/16. So we've been in the market about 4 months, and we are in about 115 dispensaries in Illinois currently.
Wow, that is awesome. And so you're very fresh and new to the market. And I talk on the show a lot about how the first 2 to 3 years of Illinois legal cannabis, recreational anyway, there were so many lawsuits that kind of kept the number of dispensaries in the state a little bit lower. And yet over the last year and a half, there have been some really welcome new additions to this marketplace. And it sounds like SweetBuzz is a very, very fresh and new addition. So tell us a little about yourself and how you got into cannabis here.
Yeah, so I started my career mostly in manufacturing and distribution. And then I worked a little bit in nonprofit for some animal rescues. And throughout that tenure in the nonprofits, I met Dave Drehobel, who is one of our founders and our chief executive officer. And so we decided back then that after what we were working on didn't work out so well, that someday we were going to get the band back together. And Dave and his partner Francisco Macias threw their hat in the ring to get cannabis licenses back in 2020, 2021, and were awarded the craft grow, infuser, and transport licenses in 2021. And at that time, Dave contacted me and said, it's time to get the band back together. And so here I am. And unfortunately, we have lost Francisco to his battle with cancer. But SweetBuzz, every product that we make and everything we do is dedicated to his memory and to his honor.
Wow. Well, that is awesome. And it is a cool story. Obviously, you guys met, became friends at another venture, which happens, I think, a lot with cannabis, with basically how new it is. It seems like there are a lot of connections that were formed at an earlier, junction, and then people go on to create some great products, try some new things, and bring to market some very exciting stuff. And that includes what you guys have going on at SweetBuzz. I'm looking at the website right now, which is GetSweetBuzz.com. Listener, if you want to take a look at some of these. But, I mean, people think of edibles, and obviously gummies, I think, comes top of mind. But you guys have things like peanut butter cups, candy cups, mint chill cups, cookies and cream or something, it looks like here, and caramel as well. I have a wicked sweet tooth, and this website is just really calling my name right now. Obviously, you guys are in a lot of dispensaries, but can you tell us about some of these products and, what led to this direction for your edibles?
Yes, sure. So our founders both met at the Georgia Nut Company, which is a family business that Dave Drehobel was a part of the family. He was the chairman of the board and CEO there for 40 years. So that company was famous for co-manufacturing products that you all know and love for large national brands. And so they are candy people that got into cannabis. We're not cannabis people that are trying to make candy. We know how to make candy, and we're trying to make great tasting candy that are edibles for this industry. So our products are, our signature product really is a Sweet Spark. It's an M&M type product. They're 1 milligram each. They're fast acting. Mm-hmm. We use a Dehydratech technology, which is patented technology. So our edibles come on in about 15 to 20 minutes versus a traditional, hour plus. And they're 1 milligram each, so they are flexible dosing. We sell those in a 20 milligram tube and a 100 milligram pouch. Then the line of sweet somethings that you alluded to, we have 4 flavors of those: peanut butter, mint chill, cookie got creamed, and caramel mint cookie. That one's sort of like a take on a Twix bar. And then we have a final product, which is called M-Powder. M-Powder is a lightly sweet, highly dissolvable, water-soluble powder that just has honey and THC in it. You can use it in anything, food, drinks. You can bake with it. You can put it in your coffee in the morning. You can sprinkle it on your popcorn. It's very versatile. Also fast-acting. It kind of comes on like a joint would.
That sounds awesome. I love the powder idea, this M-Powder line of products. I mean, that notion of being able to mix it in a drink or kind of put it on whatever food item you want to, I just think that sounds so cool, and obviously gives customers a lot of freedom as to how they want to use it. And I think that, as we've come a few years into this legal cannabis here in Illinois, and obviously we're a decade in around the country after Colorado went rec back in 2014. So we're finally starting to see some real innovations, I think, in the edible space. For so long, I come from cannabis as somebody who was using before it was legal, and I always kind of joke about how, you'd go get cookies from a guy down the block or brownies or whatever, and that's why so many of us ran into the situation where you'd eat one, and maybe it took 40 minutes to an hour to set in, and then that's where you're waiting 20, 30 minutes, and you go, okay, I guess I'm not feeling it. Let me take 1 or 2 more. And that's when, obviously, people run into some real trouble there. But with this fast-acting stuff like that, what you guys are having with this M-Powder and some of these others, I just think that's wonderful because it sort of nips that in the bud. When you feel it on setting within, 15 to 30 minutes, you really don't risk running into that issue as much anymore. So I think like something like that M-Powder sounds awesome.
Yeah, and all of our products have that technology. So, and it's not like coming on like a freight train. It's very subtle. It comes on like very gently. You feel it. You get the little body buzz. You start to feel good. And the good news about it too is it doesn't last as long as maybe a traditional edible that you might get that edible hangover in the morning. It comes on gradually, but nicely, and it comes off kind of the same. So if you take it and go to a concert or go to a movie or go have, an occasion, it's going to come off pretty quickly and you can drive home. So it's really very flexible, and you can dose again if you want, because it's very flexible.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it's really important. As you just alluded to, people going to concerts, or if you're at a backyard barbecue, block party, name whatever the event is. Especially we're here at the end of summer, going to be some Labor Day events coming up here in the next few weeks, and obviously I think that flexibility of allowing people to enjoy cannabis products in a way that doesn't require them to set aside half of their day, and even maybe, as you said, like a little bit of the next morning to kind of get that grogginess out of your system or whatever. I think that's so important to normalizing the use of cannabis and allowing it to find a more regular place in all of our day-to-day lives. I talk a lot on the show about, how normalized alcohol is. And even aside from alcohol, you talk about cigarettes or maybe caffeine is an example that I use a lot more. And I think that, aside from like testing, alcohol has a breathalyzer and whatnot, our testing for cannabis in the system, which is affecting you currently, is not great yet. And I think when we have some more developments in that regard, it'll go a long way toward kind of, regulating these things. But products like SweetBuzz and these things that are coming on, as you said, not super strong, but still you can feel them in a short amount of time. And then they also go out in a reasonable amount of time. You're not drinking a beer and then expecting to still feel that 3 hours later. And I think it's important to have cannabis options that fit that bill as well.
We also feel that, like, as you're talking about the alcohol consumption and things like that, I don't drink alcohol. That's not my thing, but I want to go hang out with my friends who do. So I'm going to use in powder and put it in my Coke or put it in my lemonade or put it in whatever I'm drinking when I'm out with my friends. And I don't have to feel weird that I'm not consuming because they're consuming alcohol. I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah, I love that. And Alisa, for that, on that note, I talk to so many people on the show here who they've made that same choice. And the reasons can be, legion as to why people make that decision. But it is really cool to me that cannabis offers this great alternative for people if you are considering leaving alcohol out of your life, or maybe just lowering your consumption of it on a regular basis. I think cannabis is the best alternative that's out there for people. And again, I've mentioned this on the show all the time. It's like, I'm from Wisconsin, and I drink, I definitely drink less these days than I used to. I think, most of the people that I know definitely partook of alcohol in our 20s. And, there was, whether it's college or just those jobs when you were younger, and how normalized alcohol is socially. You talked about wanting to hang out with people as they're drinking their beer and whatnot. One of the big hurdles that I think people run into if you are trying to leave alcohol out of your life or lower the consumption is how baked into socializing it really is. When you're hanging out with people and everyone's got a drink in their hand and you don't, they notice that you are the other. You're just in this space where like, oh, I want to hang out with you guys, but I'm not part of that club. Even if you're holding water, you're going to get follow-up questions like, okay, well, why aren't you? And, sometimes you just don't feel like needing to explain that or whatever. So whether it's beverages, whether it's something like in powder from SweetBuzz, just putting it into whatever drink you're having there, these options, product options, as well as just kind of getting, whether it's beverages or whatever, occupying that space, filling that void socially, it's going to allow more and more people to kind of maybe slowly segue away from alcohol or just drop it out entirely. And I think there are many, many reasons why people are looking to do that these days.
Yes, for sure.
Myself, I know this is something interesting I find, and I've mentioned on the show before too, that in states where cannabis is legalized, it's been shown that alcohol consumption rates go down. And, I've mentioned on the show before too, I think that that's why in states states like Wisconsin, Indiana, the places in and around Illinois that are still so anti-cannabis, I really do feel like it's the alcohol industries that are part of those states that are really keeping cannabis at arm's length, keeping it outside the party, so to speak, because they don't want to have to deal with that loss of business. But with products like these, like SweetBuzz is offering, I think that tide is coming, no matter how hard they fight it,
Yep, I agree.
So let's talk about where people, you mentioned there's a lot of dispensaries in Illinois where people can get these, but are there any that you want to highlight off the bat here?
We are in most of the major multi-chain stores like Rise, Zenleaf, Sunnyside, Curaleaf. We're in a lot of the independents, and we love to support our fellow independents. So we are in, Social, we are in Altius, we are in the Aroma Hills, which are multi store but a smaller chain. We're in River Bluff. We're in. You caught me off guard. I got to think of them all.
No problem.
We're in a lot. But also one thing I did want to highlight, too, is we are competing in the Best in Grass competition that is going on currently.
Oh, excellent.
So our Empowder is in the beverage category. So we're competing in that kit. And then our Sweet Sparks and our Sweet Somethings are in the non-gummy edible category. So I know those kits are for sale in 34 dispensaries in the state. And I know they're selling out fast. So we're excited because we want, not only could we maybe win, but we also get a lot of feedback from those, which we're really, really looking forward to from the judges' kits. They ask a lot of questions about packaging, about the taste, about the onset of our products, and we really love consumer feedback.
Oh, that's awesome to know. And I've teased the Best in Grass contest. I've talked about it a lot. I got my gummies kit last weekend, and now, Alisa, you've given me reasons to go out and get the beverage and the non-gummy edible kits so that I can try these great SweetBuzz products as well. Because, man, just looking at the pictures on the website, I gotta say, like the peanut better cups, which I love the name of, as well as just candy and mint chill, and all of these look so good. And I'm a big fan of beverages, but I also have only tried one or two cannabis infused like powder options, like your guys' Empowder line, and that seems like just such a winner. You've definitely given me a reason to go out and get some more kits, and I'm sure that some of the other listeners are going to do exactly that as well.
Excellent. Yeah, our candy, I have to say, the peanut butter is named that for a reason, because it is better. Our cookie got creamed. That is one that is a fan favorite. A lot of places I've gone. It is so good. It's very creamy. It's crunchy. Our flavors are so good, and they are just reminiscent of like the most popular candies that you're getting at your checkout counter. Just go look at the checkout counter. You're going to see a peppermint patty. You're going to see a Twix. You're going to see an M&M. And you're going to see a cookie and cream candy bar. And that's what we're doing.
I love it. And it's so cool because they're there for a reason. They're there to entice somebody on your way out the door to be like, oh, you know what? That Twix does look pretty good. I was just in this grocery store for 90 minutes or whatever and filling up my cart. And now I'm going to reward myself with this little chocolate bar. To now have infused options of those and have them taste as good as I'm sure they do. I can't wait to give them a shot. And you guys are taking part in the Illinois Craft Showcase, which is coming up September 7th. Is that right?
Yes, we are very excited to be taking part in that. Looking forward to meeting all the other craft growers, to meeting consumers. We will have some Sweet Sparks in the VIP bag. We're giving away some T-shirts. We'll have other swag to give away. So we're really looking forward to it.
So that right there, listener, I mentioned the Illinois Craft Showcase. You can still get tickets for it, happening September 7th from noon to 7 p.m. And now, just an additional reason to go there, you can try some of these great SweetBuzz products and get some swag, too, and meet some really cool people who are doing some excellent work. Alisa, we didn't, necessarily talk about this ahead of the interview, and you may not have an answer. I can certainly cut this out if you would like, but But I'm just curious, what's your journey been like in terms of the company? What has it been like for SweetBuzz to get up and running in the Illinois market? Legal cannabis is kind of still undergoing a shift. It's expanding state by state, and people have their opinions about how different states are running things. What was it like, speaking as the CFO and COO, what's it been like for SweetBuzz to get up and running in Illinois?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. It's been very challenging. We started down one path, we changed paths again, we changed paths again. So as I said, we got our license in 2021. We had a plan to build out a full, from the ground up, grow edibles production facility, extraction facility on a green site. After pricing that all out, working with architects, consultants, you name it, it came out really, really expensive to do that. So we shifted gears. We bought some property out in Marengo, Illinois, that was already zoned cannabis, 2 buildings, and we chose to build out our edibles and extraction first to get revenue generating, and then we also plan to build out a grow facility in our second building, but that takes more capital, so we definitely wanted to get revenue producing both in the edible side and our extraction side. We are starting up our extraction at the end of this week, actually, so that's pretty exciting. But it's been hard. It takes a lot more money than anyone would have ever expected. Our financial projections that we made back in 21, 22 are not even remotely close to what they are now. And the dispensaries are full of products, so it's definitely a challenge to get on the shelves there, to get reorders, to understand the stocking levels, to understand the buying habits, to get in front of consumers in a non-traditional space that you can't advertise traditionally. So we've experienced all those challenges. We're in it for the long haul. Our leadership is very committed to our products and to our company. And we're still very, very excited about everything. We just have experienced more challenges than we knew back in 2021.
Yeah, totally understandable. And I think that is a journey that is going to ring familiar to a lot of others who maybe have tried to get products into this state market of Illinois as well. I've heard so many tales of struggle from people who, whether social equity or not, tried to kind of get into the marketplace thinking it was going to go one way and ran into a lot of hurdles and obstacles along the way. So I definitely respect anybody who's been able to kind of get through those and get their products on store shelves the way that SweetBuzz has. Let me ask you again, so you've made it, you're on store shelves in Illinois, and obviously that was a huge expense and effort to go through. Are you planning to get your products on shelves in other states?
Yeah, we are in talks with a few other opportunities in other states. We are also currently bringing on some other brands from other states because our background does include co-manufacturing. So we are bringing on Love's Oven. They're out of Colorado. We're bringing that on actually in October. They do brownies and cookies. They're made from canna butter, so very, very fresh, great tasting. We're also bringing on another brand from California called Choices, more of a novelty brand, Pixie Six, Pop Rocks, ice cubes, some drink mixes, some cooking mixes, so very exciting sort of novelty products. We're in talks of doing a premium pre-roll, and I just actually got off a call about another brand out of New York that we're looking to bring on. So and then with all those brands, we're looking at a reciprocity to go back to their states as well.
Wow, that is very exciting. And I was going to ask you about other products too. And that is so cool that you guys are looking to bring those options under your portfolio. Ice cubes, that is amazing.
Very novelty.
Yeah,
cool, right?
Very cool. I love the idea. And that's something that, I'm just here in Illinois, and I don't know if those are out there. They must be in other states, but man, that's the first time hearing of those. So I will definitely be getting some SweetBuzz ice cubes when those become available. And I just really, like I said, I cannot wait to give all these other products in your portfolio a try. Everything, especially with Halloween coming up. I think there are times throughout the year, holidays, that people get candy on the brain a little more than it typically is. And for these and how good they are, as you said, your founders coming into this from a candy background, making food before getting into cannabis, that really just speaks to what the quality of these products is going to be like when you're talking about taste and texture and all those experiences of a candy product that you would look at from like a Mars, if you're talking about M&Ms or Twix bars or whatever, you expect those to be of a certain standard. And there's a lot of companies that, come from the cannabis space who are just kind of infusers, and they don't have that background of making stuff at the level of those other brands that we just talked about. And that's something that SweetBuzz has going for it. And it really seems like it's set up for you guys to stand out from the crowd that way.
Yes, you said it best. Like I said, we're candy people that are in the cannabis space. Our products taste amazing. I am biased, but I'm not biased because they taste so good. You cannot taste cannabis in them. They're great, high quality chocolates. The flavors are there. They're really good. We are coming out with some additions to our own product lines. So the Sparks that I mentioned, the 1 milligram M&M type product, we're in R&D right now for a sleep version of that and an energy version. The energy version will be a dreamsicle flavored, so orange with white chocolate. I'm gonna go shut them up.
No problem. Yeah.
It's terrible while I'm on with you.
No, you can't control them, right? It's dogs. I asked you. I know I asked before we were recording, but what are your dogs' names?
Latke. So Latke is Yiddish for potato pancake.
Yes.
And then the other one is Louis. They are French bulldogs.
Latke and Louis. What great dog names, I have to say. Are they? You mentioned that you were with nonprofit work before. Are they adopted dogs by chance?
Yes, they are both rescues from the Chicago French Bulldog Rescue.
Oh,
SweetBuzz is a sponsor of the Chicago French Bulldog Rescue too.
Oh, well, excellent. Also, there you go. So that means obviously that if people needed another reason to go indulge in their sweet tooth and try one of these SweetBuzz products, you're also helping out some worthy canines as well in that process. So good on you guys. That's cool.
Back to the new products.
Yeah.
So we are coming out with the Sweet Sparks that will be for sleep. It will be a 1-to-1 THC CBN with dark chocolate. And then the Sweet Sparks Energy version will be an orange flavored dreamsicle white chocolate. So we're excited for those to be coming out. Hopefully before the end of the year, those products will be in the market as well.
Wow, that is just so exciting, Alisa, because I have mentioned on the show before, I've tried some products that are sort of in this lane of using different cannabinoids that through research, through this new knowledge of this legal market, are starting to come out. And CBN and its properties for sleep aid, THCV and its energy properties. These are incredibly exciting cannabinoids, and I just think that more and more products that allow people to avail themselves of those benefits, that is exactly what is so exciting about this new legal cannabis space. The innovation that you're talking about, where it's not just a capsule or a pill to take as like a sleep aid. The notion that you could pop a delicious dreamsicle M&M and have that be a little energy boost for you, or pop one at night and have it, help you get to sleep. I just think that the whole idea is fascinating, and I can't wait for more people to get a try of these, because I know that there's a lot of people out there who are just as excited as I am to hear that you guys are going to be making them, and that means that they'll be tasty as well as effective, so they don't have to just choke down another pill, I guess is what I'm saying.
Exactly. It should be enjoyable.
Yeah, totally. Well, hey, and let me just say, listener, if you're looking for an enjoyable cannabis experience, as we've been talking about, you can find SweetBuzz products across Illinois dispensaries, the big names as well as smaller names, and soon you'll be able to find them in other states outside of Illinois. But in the meantime, if you want to get a try of some of these, head to the Illinois Craft Showcase on on September 7th. They'll be there with plenty of products and swag and great representation. You can meet people from the company and enjoy yourself, have a great time, and get a try of some of these delicious products that we've been talking about here. And you can head to GetSweetBuzz.com in the meantime to find out specifically what the products are, see some pictures of them, where to buy them, and everything else like that. Alisa Brill, a Chief Financial Officer and Chief Operating Officer of SweetBuzz. Thank you very much for stopping by today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
There you have it, listener. I want to thank one more time my guest, Alisa Brill of SweetBuzz. Wow, do those products sound tasty. As I've mentioned at the top and during the interview, I have always had a wicked sweet tooth. It's one of the biggest struggles I have whenever I'm trying to lose weight or be on any kind of consistent diet. It's the after-dinner sweets that always throw me off. And so my ears always perk up, especially when somebody talks about, peanut butter cups or mint chocolate or even like the white chocolate vanilla stuff. She was talking about some M&M style products as well. These things are really, she's preaching to the choir here. Like, I'm on board whether these things are infused or not. If you put those in front of me, they're going down my gullet. That's just the way that it's happening. But when you throw in some cannabis infusions as well, and you throw a nice fun vibe on that, especially maybe on a fall or autumn evening, as is coming up here in the next few weeks, maybe around a bonfire with some friends. That's what I'm talking about. That sounds like a nice fall night. And if trying these sounds appealing to you, as I mentioned at the top, you can try some of these for free at the Illinois Craft Showcase coming up next weekend, September 7th at Molly's Joint in Tilton. SweetBuzz will be there, and they will have some of these delicious sounding products on hand for you to sample. Moving on to the news stories I wanted to bring to your attention this week. The biggest one, in my opinion, this week came out of the DEA. This was published Monday, August 26th. I'm reading this from Marijuana Moment. I'm a fan mostly of the work they do. Sometimes, they veer into opinion stuff and don't really label it that way. I also am honestly not a fan of the title of the publication, Marijuana Moment. I've said many times on my show that I don't like the word marijuana because it's so loaded with baggage from last century's propaganda, which is why I named my show Cannabis Man, and why I try to use the word cannabis whenever possible. But that is not really the point here. The point is the story that matters to you and I this week is that the DEA scheduled a hearing on marijuana rescheduling, delaying reform until after the election. This was published by Kyle Yeager, who does a lot of work for Marijuana Moment. And again, it came out Monday of this week. The DEA, reading the article now, scheduled a hearing to consider differing expert opinions on the Justice Department's proposal to federally reschedule cannabis, an extra procedural step that will take place after the November election. After moving to reclassify cannabis as a Schedule III drug under the Controlled Substances Act back in March, DOJ opened a 60-day public comment period, which saw more than 40,000 submissions. Of those, I was one. I submitted my public comment. I hope you did as well. But that 60-day period is over. It ended in July. And now that the DEA's reviewed the comments, it's agreed to an administrative hearing, which was always a possibility. It's just annoying that they're doing it at the end of the year instead of pushing it through maybe next month in September or October. It certainly would be nice to just get this underway. The hearing now will be held on December 2nd, according to a notice which will be published on the Federal Register today, Thursday the 29th, when I'm recording this. While some advocates and stakeholders had hoped the DEA would avoid this additional step and simply move to final rulemaking, yes, I expressed such a hope on many episodes of this show, the agency has often scheduled hearings for regulatory proposals of major public interest. And rescheduling cannabis for the first time since it was designated as Schedule I over 50 years ago evidently met that standard, according to Kyle Yeager in this article here. That said, he goes on, the hearing adds some uncertainty about the potential rescheduling timeline. There are some concerns this means the rulemaking process will not not be completed before January, which could mean an administrative change-up after the November election, which could theoretically affect the rescheduling process. What Kyle is saying here, if it's not clear, is that this hearing and the timeline of it means, depending on who gets into office in November's presidential election, their administration may feel differently about this potential rescheduling, and they may direct the Justice Department and the DEA to abandon this pursuit altogether. That is a very real possibility that now exists because of this timeline making the administrative review after the election. Whoever gets into office now controls the fate of not just, descheduling, but rescheduling cannabis down to 3, which we've all been excited about this whole summer. So that's kind of a bummer. I've linked to this article below. There's a lot more information. I suggest you go through it because it gives a lot of good context and some possibilities of what's out there. But the reason I wanted to bring this up to you is because A, it's important, and B, I have said this entire year, ever since the announcements came out from the Justice Department and the DEA, when the DEA sent that letter in January after 6 months, basically, or it was March, when they sent the letter in March, basically telling everyone, hey, there's no update on rescheduling. All we're telling you is that we control this process. It's only us that get to determine this one way or the other. When the DEA said that publicly, I came out on this show and said it was very unlikely that this was going to be just a signed, sealed, and delivered easy deal. They are gearing up for a fight here. And as I've explained on past episodes, it makes sense because it goes against the DEA's self-interest to abandon a substance which is right now fully under their purview. They are in charge of regulating all these Schedule I substances, like heroin, like methamphetamines, like the other Schedule I substances list. The DEA is fully in charge of regulating where those are sold and when they come into the country and how they come into the country and all of that stuff. That substance directly ties in to the DEA's funding, the number of agents they have, the work that they're doing. And so for them, like any government body, when you lose something off of that list, if the DEA were to say, hey, cannabis is just Schedule III now, it's no longer really that big of a deal for us to focus on, maybe then they lose some agents. Maybe they lose some funding the next year. And that, as well as any other reasons, maybe personal, that the members of the DEA actually, whether they believe in the power of cannabis or not, it is the logistics there. It is the money and it is the manpower and their control over the trafficking of cannabis. That's the stuff that's in their self-interest. And I think that was why it was never going to be an easy fight to get this rescheduled. And I would say that this announcement of the administrative hearing December 2nd clearly indicates that the DEA is hoping that maybe whoever comes into the president's office November will have a different thought about rescheduling as well. For my money, I'm hoping for a Harris-Walz administration because I know that they're likely to push this rescheduling process forward and maybe even further, fully descheduling it down the line. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you think about this. Send a text at the link in the description notes. Moving on, this other exciting article here from the Marijuana Herald has to do with a major company which is no longer going to test its workers for cannabis. This would be the Home Depot. It's overhauling its drug testing policies by removing cannabis from all drug testing panels and halting pre-employment drug tests for the majority of its workforce. This came out August 27th, Tuesday of this week, published by Anthony Martinelli. Love the work he does for the Marijuana Herald. And I won't go through the entire article here, but these updates are taking effect September 1st, so just in a few days from when I'm recording this. They were outlined in a human resources memo circulated this week among employees. The Marijuana Herald was sent a copy of the memo, and it specifies that cannabis will no longer be included in any drug tests nationwide, including those conducted after workplace incidents or when there is a suspicion of impairment. The shift in policy was confirmed by a social media post made by a Home Depot employee. The memo also states, quote, the drug testing will no longer be required for all lift equipment and material handling equipment, while noting that pre-employment drug testing will only be conducted for external candidates with contingent offers in asset protection and corporate security. The article goes on a bit, but that's all I'll read. This is also linked below. Highly recommend you check this out. But man, how exciting is that? The Home Depot, which obviously employs a ton of workers nationwide, they're no longer going to be testing for cannabis. And Home Depot is not known as a progressive organization. This isn't, let's say Starbucks. This isn't like Amazon or, Microsoft or something, or a large tech company like Google or, Meta or anything like that. Not that those are necessarily progressive, but I think those might be the ones to make a move like this. But to get this from Home Depot, I'm a big fan. Next time I need, some plywood or a light bulb or something like that, that's where I'm going. Because, man, I love that big companies like this, that this is a major move, and I think other companies will start to follow suit here. This is just very, very exciting, and it's indicative of where the country stands at large. Home Depot's new policy is just reflecting the reality that the DEA, for instance, still seems resistant to do. Anyway, that one, again, is linked below as well. And the third and final news story that I'll share with you here was a study that I'm going to dive more into. I've reached out to the authors of this study. I am getting this article from studyfinds.org. I've linked this below, and you may have already seen a headline to this effect because it's been making the rounds this week. Major news here. The headline: Cannabis may be an anti-aging miracle drug for older brains, study suggests. This was published Monday. The research was led by Dr. Andres Bilke-Gorzo of the University of Hospital Bonn, and I reached out to Dr. Bilke-Gorzo, and I'm hoping to get them on the show to talk more about this. Bonn University is in Germany. The article, which I've linked below, starts: as we age, our brains slow down. We become more forgetful, less sharp, and struggle to learn new things as easily as we once did. However, the answer to turning back the clock on our aging brains may be hiding in a surprising place: cannabis. New research from Germany suggests that long-term, low-dose treatment with THC, the main psychoactive component in cannabis that gives users the high feeling, could help keep aging brains youthful and nimble. While high doses of THC are known to impair memory and cognition, carefully controlled low doses appear to have the opposite effect in older brains. In a groundbreaking study published in the journal ACS Pharmacology and Translation Science, researchers treated elderly mice with small daily doses of THC for several weeks. The aging mice showed dramatic improvements in learning, memory, and cognitive flexibility. Their brains even started producing new connections between neurons, a process typically associated with young, developing brains. Now, the article goes on. One more line that I'll read from it, though, is: the key seems to lie in its effects on metabolism and energy production. Specifically, the researchers at the university say the protein switch mTOR influences cognitive performance and metabolic processes based on its signal strength. And the study found that THC treatment triggered a complex cascade of metabolic changes in the brain of older mice. It ramped up energy production, increased the availability of raw materials needed to form new brain connections, and activated pathways associated with cellular repair and renewal. So that's all I'm going to read from this article. Again, I've linked it below. Highly recommend you check the rest of this out. But as I said, I've reached out to the study's author, and I hope to bring you a more detailed discussion about this in the future. But hey, does it get more exciting than that? THC, low levels, mind you, but sustained low-level THC doses may actually have an anti-aging effect on our brains. How significant is that? And I would say, I think we see real-world evidence of this simply by looking at people who have been the OGs of cannabis consumption for decades now. I'm looking at Willie Nelson. I'm looking at Tommy Chong and Cheech. These are people who are still out there, mentally nimble, quick, out there doing interviews and launching new products and all these things, being brand ambassadors, and Willie Nelson still performing on stage, a musician, out there with his son and everything. These are guys that have been using cannabis for decades, and look at how it's keeping them youthful enough to function in this capacity when they're 80 plus. I found this article and this study to be incredibly exciting, and I hope you can see why too. The implications here, especially as we are looking at the future of humanity, and people are already living longer. But the key, and I read this in this great book called Lifespan by David Sinclair, who is he's a longevity scientist at Harvard. He runs their anti-aging lab. It's a really great book. I highly recommend it. But the point is, what he talks about is nobody wants to live to 150 if 80 years of that are, low quality of life. If your knees hurt and your back hurts and your brain is foggy all the time and you can't remember anything, who the hell wants to live another 75 years on top of what we already get? That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is a health span, meaning imagine if you could live to 150, but instead of being infirm or less capable than you were in your, prime years, what if you could extend your prime decades longer? What if you could live to 125, 130, and even when you were 80, 90, 100, 110, you were still functioning as an elder adult, but you were still enjoying your life? I think the key point that I'm trying to make here is nobody wants an unpleasant existence to stretch on endlessly, but nobody wants to be done living if you're still enjoying yourself. I know people who my age will say, I don't want to live past 75. We're sitting here in our 30s now, and I have friends who are like, no, 75 is probably it for me. But I know when we have those conversations that when they get to 75, if they're still enjoying their life, that attitude's not going to change. It's not like when you're 75, you're just going to say, okay, tomorrow is it, I'm done. If you're still loving life, you don't want it to be over with, whether you're 35, 75, or 105. So if THC allows people to still enjoy their lives and have a high quality of life for decades longer, this might be the holy grail of quality of life improvements that cannabis can offer. I mean, we talk about things like sleep aid. We talk about dealing with anxiety or chronic body pain. I always mention those as big quality of life improvements that cannabis can offer. Well, now we can possibly add to that list anti-aging of your brain. That is major. That's the top of the freaking pyramid. So anyway, I'm just so thrilled by that, and I hope it excites you as much as it does me. That is the last story I've got for you this week on the show. Be sure to leave a rating or review if you liked what I talked about today, if you felt I brought any value to you. However you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, YouTube, wherever you're at, do me a favor, subscribe, rate and review the show, and tell your friends about it. If you know people into cannabis or somebody who maybe could use it, but they don't know anything about it, or maybe they've never looked into trying it because it was illegal where you are, but now maybe it's just become legal or is becoming legal, point them to this show. Tell them about the Cannabis Man Podcast. Follow us on social media at C-Man Podcast on X and Instagram, and the Cannabis Man Podcast Facebook page and YouTube channel. And if you really like what I'm doing, support the show through Patreon. Click the Support the Show link in the description notes and become a subscriber through there. As always, you can send a text to me through that link in the description notes as well. Anything that you wanted to contribute to conversation-wise. If you've tried the Essence OG Strawberry Nectar gummies that I reviewed today, let me know what you thought of them. Maybe you liked them better than I did. Maybe you thought they were crap. If you have any opinions on the DEA's decision to schedule this administrative hearing after this year's election, let me know what you thought about that. And if you have any questions relating to cannabis or something that you want explored as a topic on the show, text me. I'm here for you. Have a great weekend or week whenever you might be listening to this. Be sure to reach out to those you love and tell them how you feel. Hang out with them, spend time, give them a hug, because that time does not last forever, and I promise you, you'll never regret it at the end. And go out to a cannabis event. Maybe meet some new people, share some good ganja with someone that you've just met for the first time. Fostering connections really feels like the whole reason that we're here, and I personally feel like cannabis is the social lubricant, even more so than alcohol, that we all need to be leaning on today. Enjoy the time you've got while we've got it, and we'll talk next week on the Cannabis Man Podcast. Blaze up. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Cannabis Man is 100% originally crafted by myself, Don Kleppen. Original theme music written and composed by Yusu Kim, aka Good Son.